exist, you deserve to exist. And if you deserve to exist, you deserve to be who you are as fully as you possibly can.
There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Peace is every step.
We are actually in a period of global spiritual emergence, and I want to really stress that that's a positive thing.
You are here for a reason, to be yourself expressed in fullness and in love.
I am you, you are me. There's only one of us here. Why would I want to hurt myself?
Well, I think that love is the fabric of everything.
Hello, and I'm another version of you, and welcome back to the Waking Universe. Tonight, I am really excited to share something that is very close to my own heart, which is the topic of aromatherapy. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would not have even known what that concept was. I would think you were talking about someone's cooking, but we're not talking about cooking. We're talking about what is called essential oils, and the effects that they can have on your health, the effects that they can have on your mind and your spirit, and how that all works. Now, am I an expert in that? Certainly not. But I am here with someone who is, and his name is Mr. Robert Berryman, and he is what is called an aromatherapist. Thank you for coming out today, Robert.
Lance, pleasure to be here.
So, you can say it better than I can. What is aromatherapy?
Aromatherapy is the use of essential oils for health, for beauty, for spirit, and for maintaining the body. And essential oils are substances that are distilled from plants. As one friend would say, it's the stuff that floats on top of the water when it's distilled. And these substances can be used in massage and baths and body products.
And this is something that goes back thousands of years.
Yeah. Aromatic plants have been used for thousands of years, since the Egyptians. Aromatherapy, the term was coined in the 1920s by a French chemist. His name is Maurice Gattefossé, and he was working for his family's chemistry firm when he burned himself in the lab, and he stuck his hand in a vat of liquid that was the closest to him.
Which was
lavender. Turned to be lavender. And he was amazed at how quickly, without scarring, that the burn healed.
One of the reasons I really wanted you to come out to the studio today and to talk about aromatherapy was because about a year ago I had a problem with a tooth issue, and my dentist, who's a biological dentist, suggested using heliochrysum oil to help deal with the pain and get rid of a tooth infection. And I had never heard of anything like that before. That was shocking to me. You know, you could just get the oil of some little flower and put it on your finger, and that made me research the subject. Then when I met you, I thought, wow, here is someone who does this for a living. And frankly, you remind me of these apothecaries, from the Middle Ages, sitting there with beakers and like going out into the jungle and pulling plants and stuff and figuring out how to create magic with it. And to me, there seems like it's sort of a sense of magic that comes from essential oils, because a lot of people don't understand how they work. I mean, how does this process really work in aromatherapy?
Well, it's partly magic, but it's also partly science, and that's the fascinating part of it. The helichrysum oil that you mentioned has analgesic properties. Peppermint has analgesic properties. Analgesic means that it deadens pain, basically. But it's not the only properties that they contain. Some of the oils are anti-inflammatory. Some of the oils are antibacterial. Some of the oils are antiviral. Some of the oils can help with digestion. I think that a lot of the over-the-counter remedies we find at the local pharmacy are derived from plants. One of the great examples is most kids have experienced the Vicks Vapor Rub when they get a cold or
You mean that comes
flu.
from a plant?
Well, the main ingredient comes from a plant,
which is eucalyptus, right?
Which is eucalyptol, right? So the eucalyptus is the full plant, and what the scientists have learned is to take the main ingredient out of a plant and then apply it to an over-the-counter remedy or even a pharmaceutical drug, and then create the drug. But I like to use the natural plant because there's not only the main ingredient, but there are trace ingredients and other properties in eucalyptus.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the difference between a pharmaceutical drug and an essential oil. Just about any pharmaceutical drug you're going to find came from a plant.
Right.
Somebody went out into the Amazon and sourced something from some flower and then took it back into a lab and synthesized it. You're saying that using the essential oil, the real essential oil, has properties that synthesized product's not going to have. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think that people who make drugs, pharmaceutical companies, own these drugs and they sell them, and they're basically single target kinds of drugs. They're meant to do one thing. I think an example of how essential oil works, I'll use peppermint as an example. It does many things. So in human physiology, you have your muscle system, your respiratory system, your digestive system, your nervous system, and on. Mm-hmm. The peppermint can enhance any one of those systems. It can open your sinuses. It can deaden pain for muscle aches. It can help your respiratory system, help you to breathe better. It'll sharpen your concentration. Right?
All just peppermint oil.
All just peppermint oil, mm-hmm. Right? It's the best oil for nausea and indigestion and flatulence, mm-hmm. Right? So out of this one oil, you can do many, many, many things. Mm-hmm. You can take a Tums for your indigestion, but it won't help your muscles.
Mm. It sounds like we're talking about something that is working synergistically versus something that is more like a Band-Aid that is fixing a particular symptom, right?
In most cases, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that using the oil, you'll get benefits that you don't normally realize that you would get, but mm-hmm. It's all in the application of the oil as well. If you only inhale it, maybe you won't notice that you're maybe sharper in your mind.
Well, what are some of the different ways that you use essential oils?
Well, they can be applied in massage. They can be applied in a bath or a compress. There's many different ways of inhalation. You can inhale through a Kleenex, through a micro diffuser, or through an aroma lamp. I use vapor water bowls, hot water with vapor, and breathe them in, right? There's ingestion, and there's also suppositories mm-hmm. as well.
When I first started looking into aromatherapy last year, what struck me was that you would think that ingesting the oil would be the most immediate effect, and what struck me was that that's not really the case. That actually, in certain cases, depending on what you need that oil for, right. Breathing it in goes directly into your lungs and directly into your system. That's much right. more quickly and more powerfully than if you were to ingest an herbal supplement, like say taking some peppermint leaf and trying to chew on it. It may have a localized effect on your gums or something, but it's not affecting your entire system in the way that breathing it in would.
Right, and I think part of that is because the medical field and the pharmaceutical industry has kind of taught us that the pill is the savior. You just pop this pill and that should take care of your headache or your stomach ache or your muscle pain or whatever. But in reality, in your example, for example, if I do have indigestion or stomach ache, I would rub it mm-hmm. from the outside and apply it topically, and then I would also then inhale it. I'd inhale the vapors of the peppermint to combat what is going on.
That's something that I found very hard to believe when my dentist said, well, just put like one drop on your cheek and it's going to deal with the pain. Right. And I thought, oh, come on, that's not going to do anything. Like one drop? I mean, really? Right. And it worked. And that's an extremely powerful tool that a lot of people don't even realize that they could be using.
Yeah, it's a very concentrated form of the plant.
I love to tell the story about the thieves blend. You know, a lot of people don't know what the thieves blend is probably at home, but in the Middle Ages, I think it was like the 1600s, as the bubonic plague was working its way through Europe and, you know, killing half the population, the apothecaries, the ones that were working with essential oils and making perfumes, the perfumists, realized they weren't getting sick. And a group of these perfumists kind of said, hey, you know, we're not getting sick. There's a lot of these rich nobles that are keeling over left and right. Why don't we go and start, like, you know, rummaging through their stuff, you know, because we seem to be immune to this. And they realized that the essential oils that they were working with on a daily basis were immunizing them to the bubonic plague somehow. They didn't understand that at the time that the insects and stuff that were carrying the viruses were being repelled by it, and probably there was an antiviral quality to the oils themselves. But nevertheless, they went on a massive crime spree all through Europe for a number of years, and thus you had the thieves' blend, which was the blend of oils that they were using to protect themselves. And I read that in an aromatherapy book, and I went, wow, that's like profound. That is some profound protection. Just by using some oils, you can have that kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's all in the chemistry of the oils. You know, the oils contain alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, esters. The alcohols tend to be antiseptic. And you know, they do have also, the smell has an effect on your mind and your well-being as well. Oils like oregano and thyme and tea tree are well-known antibacterial, antiviral oils.
Well, oregano oil, I think, is another great example. There's this great book called The Cure is in the Cupboard, and it's all about the uses of oregano oil. And the ancient Romans and the Greeks credited so much of the power of their armies to the fact that they had oregano, and they had oregano oil, which they would use for everything from purifying dirty water to you know, healing wounds, to any kind of a virus or bacterial infection. They would apply, you know, blisters on the feet. They put oregano oil in it. It keeps it from getting infected. Even snake bites and spider bites and things like that. It's an antivenom. There's a whole world out there. That's just one oil. What are some of the other really interesting oils that you've encountered that somebody at home could take advantage of?
Oh, there's so many. I have about 100 oils in my personal collection that I work with, and we usually work with, if you want to try to understand, you know, in a kind of a simple sense of the different kinds of oils you can come up with, you look at the broad classifications of oils. There are wood oils like cedar wood and sandalwood. And
sandalwood, which I understand a lot of people use for meditative reasons. Why is that?
Oh, it helps to slow the breath when you breathe it in, and helps to still the mind. And I think breathing also just helps, but the oils have their effect on the nervous system, right? Frankincense and myrrh are also very good for that. Those are some of my favorite oils. I love geranium. Some of the flower oils like lavender, geranium, neroli, and rose. How
many geraniums does it take to make a little bottle of geranium oil?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because people ask me, well, how much does this oil cost? And the oils can vary widely in cost, and that has to do with their availability or the abundance or lack of abundance of an oil. And that can be tied to the plant material itself, as in the blossoms of rose or jasmine or neroli. There's very little oil in a blossom, so you need 5,000 pounds of blossoms to get a pound of oil.
5,000 blossoms?
5,000
pounds of blossoms? Wow.
To get a 1 pound of oil. Yeah. Whereas in something that's the oil's very abundant in is let's say an orange, right? Orange oil. If you just peel the orange, the oil just squirts out at you, and so relatively, it's not nearly as expensive, and it's quite abundant. Right?
Like for instance, helichrysum is very expensive.
Helichrysum is very expensive. It's also, you know, a very delicate plant, and you need a lot of plant material to get the oil. Now we're running into other problems, though, of sustainability of certain plants, like the sandalwood has not been sustainably harvested, so it's become more rare and precious.
Where is sandalwood coming from?
From India. There are other places that it's grown, but it's the preferred region where we want sandalwood from. There's other regions are Tasmania and Caledonia, and I just heard of a friend who just got some oil from Hawaii where they have some sandalwood plants there.
So you actually go around the world to these places looking for oil?
I have gone to different countries to find distillers who distill in a certain method. These are artisan distillers, not the commercial ones. You see, essential oils are used in food and beverage products, like bergamot's used in Earl Grey tea, and certain oils are used in marmalade, like the orange oil.
I'll take some ice, some mint leaves, and some honey, and then a single drop of peppermint oil, and I'll blend it up and make ice cream. It's fantastic, just with one drop of peppermint oil.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah,
it's very concentrated, very strong, and one drop, you can feel the effects of it.
What made you realize the power of essential oils?
Well, I actually was turned on to essential oils by a friend who's a massage therapist and gave me a bottle of lavender. I was practicing massage at the time, and I used the lavender in the massage and felt this wave of calm energy come over me just through inhaling it and working with it and having it absorbed through my skin. And it was a unique experience for me to recognize that this plant was actually communicating to me and having an effect on me.
A wave of energy. Is there something beyond just the chemical properties, do you think, that's going on in the oils?
Yeah, I think that there's a vibrational, it's a vibrational medicine. I mean, meaning that, I mean, I don't mean to sound so esoteric, but just like music is a vibration, sound is a vibration, well, aroma is a vibration, color is a vibration, and they all have their effects on the psyche and nervous system, right?
And even, you would say, emotionally, spiritually?
Emotionally, spiritually, I mean, I'd say things like lavender or like frankincense or myrrh, and then you breathe them in. They go into the olfactory system, to the nerves in your nose and in your nasal cavity, and from there, there's an electrical charge that happens in your nervous system, and it affects your anxiety level or the thoughts that you have.
You said something that was very interesting a minute ago, which was that essential oils, like when you first had that experience with lavender, that it was like it was communicating to you. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, when I was learning in my earlier days about essential oil, my teacher was telling me that I needed to listen to the plant and to understand the properties of the plant. And as I get to know these oils, they're kind of like friends that it takes time to get to know them. There's just no instant relationship, right? So through using them and experimenting with them and making some mistakes with them as well, then I come to understand, what they can offer.
Yeah, you would think, okay, add 5 drops of lavender and add 5 drops of eucalyptus, and there you have your recipe, and that's that. But that's not the case, is it?
No, not necessarily, but sometimes it is. I mean, it depends on the practitioner and
exactly. I have the Encyclopedia of Aromatherapy, and I brought this from my house, and there's a passage here which I wanted to share with you. It says, believe it or not, no two people can blend an identical smelling fragrance, even though they may use exactly the same blend of oils and exactly the same qualities from the same bottles. Amazingly, the oil will always take on an aspect of the blender's personality, their aromatic signature. That to me sounds pretty far out, but is there something to that?
I believe so. I believe that I've seen people respond differently. If I give you an oil, a blend to use that I made, it may not smell the same when you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not react the same, and I think there's something to that. Just because I think that we're working with bioactive substances that are sensitive
to your bioactive energy,
to my energy and my vibration. And so it could be altered in some way.
It's, I think, the most underappreciated sense, your sense of smell.
Yeah, I think people have really, in modern life, have shut out their sense of smell. We used to rely on our sense of smell for our survival, and now we really have been bombarded with all sorts of false smells. You know, the perfume industry no longer uses true essential oils.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Unless you want to pay, you know, the price for it. There's lots of reasons for that. I mean, the cost of the oil, of producing like a jasmine oil, and distilling a jasmine oil. Yeah, that's really been a big shift. So we're bombarded with a lot of unnatural,
it's very
synthetic kinds of smells, right?
Yeah, there's no subtlety. Almost like they're programming.
It is programming, and so what I've been doing is having people learn to educate their nose by smelling pure essential oils. What does pure lavender smell like? What does pure sandalwood smell like? Because most people don't have a clue. They usually smell something that's a replica.
Even when they dilute the oil down to the minutest part of it, where you can't even smell the oil anymore, it still has effects in the human body, you know, and much like with homeopathy, the less and less and less of a substance you add, the greater and greater and greater effect it has. Yeah, right. And when you see that little times 10 or times 20, after a certain point, I think it's like times 20 or something, you can't get it over the counter anymore because it's too powerful, yet there's less of it in it. How does that work? You know, unless we're dealing with energy and the fact that there's a subtler energy there. So the very act of you handling that oil, does that then have that's actually...
That's interacting.
It's interacting
with your own bioenergy, right?
It's changing the chemical outlook of the oil.
To a degree. Now it depends on, like, again, who's using it, or who's holding or handling the oil. I've seen that at work, but generally, I think of the oils as being alive, basically.
That's interesting.
I do. I think that they're agents that will work in my behalf once you know I'm in simpatico with them.
When you say alive, is there? I mean, are you focusing energy at the oil?
Well, it's really like my energy is also part of the mix, right? So my energy, and I'm using the oil to maybe extend my intention as well. I think there's a way of you treat the oil or treat the plant. You notice gardeners know that, right? We know
the gardener who sings music to their
vines.
Yeah, to their vines, and the vines grow, and the other guy that chooses.
Plants are sensitive. They're sentient beings as well.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Elaborate on that. What do you mean?
Well, plants can respond to threats, to anger, to fear, and they may not open up their secrets for you, or open up their treasures for you if you mistreat them.
It's like the messages in water. There's a book that was published by this doctor, I'm going to mess up his name, but I think it's Dr. Emoto, who in Japan will take images of water frozen with an electron microscope, and depending upon the intention that he writes on a bottle, it changes the physical molecular structure of the crystals, either into something much more beautiful or something much more ugly, depending on what he writes
Distorted
on.
Right.
If he writes the word love on there, then he gets these beautiful crystals. He writes the word hate, and he gets this ugly mass of crystals. So it's like the intention of writing actually changes the structure of the, in this case, would be essential oils.
If you're handling essential oils and you're kind of an angry, anxious, depressed person, in the sense that you're trying to dispense it as a healing agent, it may not be nearly as effective if you were a person who was, more calm, directed. And
so what you're saying is pay attention to your doctor's mood when you go into the doctor's office, because if he's anxious and depressed, you don't want that doctor.
I don't want that chef. I don't want that doctor. I don't want that healer, right? I don't want an angry chef in the kitchen cooking my food.
Because you're dealing with what can be a tool of healing or a tool of harming, which is really your own emotions.
I don't see really, the oils are just an extension of a plant. I mean, and even though we've distilled it, it still is bioactive. So our food is the same, right? How we handle our food, the wines, anything that's bioactive in that way.
Has its own presence.
Has its own presence, its own energy. I mean, and as we interact with animals and plants, this is the thing that I've learned through working with aromatherapy. It really taught me the connection between all life, right? And that what my thoughts matter, my feelings matter, and as I interact with other people and plants and animals, that I have to be respectful of other life forms.
I think that you've hit on the secret of everything. How you look at your surroundings affects you personally, and it also, and how you look at yourself reflects that outside surrounding. There's no real boundary line there.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to start with yourself, and you have to be able to look inside yourself and heal yourself in order to see things differently and make your life, in a more positive mode.
Doctor, heal thyself, isn't that the phrase?
Yeah.
How has working with these essential oils changed you, and how have you seen it affect other people?
The first thing is learning to take responsibility for my own health. I used to, run to the doctor for every time there was a problem, and there are situations where you do have to see a doctor. But
if I stumble and break something or something like, I think there's a real need for, at that point, a Band-Aid and a bandage with a doctor and maybe some put me on some anti-pain medicine or something.
Right.
There's a place and a time, I think, for everything.
Right. Well, I think basically where I'm coming from though is that there's health care and then there's sick care, right? So wellness care, right? We can keep ourselves healthy by doing the right things and like eating the right foods, using essential oils as antiviral, antibacterial to protect yourself from pathogens and infections, right?
Why not just use antibiotics? Why can't I just go to the doctor and get some antibiotics and like that? What's the difference?
Well, you see, there's a problem now with antibiotic-resistant bacteria because they've been overused, right? And they can't keep up with the mutations of the bacteria in the hospitals, and so the best way to get a deadly infection is to go to a hospital, right?
Yeah.
Why essential oils come from plants and they're grown each year, so they're mutating along with the bacteria.
Interesting. So they're actually keeping up with each mutation each year because it's a new harvest.
It's a new harvest. There are new conditions in the harvest, and so we've found tea tree to be an antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. That's one oil that covers a spectrum of pathogens, right? And it will kill staph in a petri dish, right? I've had a friend who did a test on antifungal medications for athlete's foot, and tea tree won hands down.
Really?
Right? Yeah. And so I think most of us fall victim to advertising and promoting,
Ask your doctor about this drug.
Right.
Side effects may include death.
Exactly. The problem is we don't know how to use these oils, and so people ask me all the time, well, what is this oil good for? Or how do I use this oil? And so there's a certain amount of ignorance about how do you apply these things. But that's also part of your learning path in order to take responsibility for your own health. If you take responsibility for your health, then you will stay healthy longer. And when you do get sick and you need a doctor, then that's totally appropriate.
Well, I mean, there's this documentary that I recommend to everybody, and especially if anybody is dealing with, you know, sickness or cancer or any kind of modern disease. It's called Forks Over Knives, and it's all about the relationship between nutrition and your health. And it talks about the China study, which was the study done by the premier of China in the 80s when he developed pancreatic cancer. He commissioned this study of over 800 million Chinese people, what made them healthy or what made them sick. And he found that even in the most polluted places in China, that were the poorest places in China, depending upon what their diet was, if their diet was less than 15% animal and dairy protein, that it was impossible for those people to get modern diseases like cancer and, you know, heart disease and those things. They were getting old world diseases like pneumonia, but not the modern diseases. And in the most affluent areas, you know, they had all of the modern diseases, you know. And so that documentary to me shows me there's a lot of responsibility that you can take, but are you willing to take the responsibility? Are you willing to do your own research? Are you willing to discern, you know, what people are telling you?
For some people, it's a little bit too much work.
It is. It's a lot of work, but it's not. You know when it's not a lot of work? When you get sick. You know, like when you get sick and somebody says, "Oh, well, there's nothing we can do for you," you know, because that's the only reason that I've looked into this stuff.
Right.
You know, is because if I could have just gone and got a pill that would have taken away my, you know, whatever I had, you know, maybe I wouldn't have looked into it. But I think that's everybody's story. It's the adversity makes you look into something like that.
Yeah, and it starts with a single event that resonates with you, and it could be an oil like lavender. It could be a massage that makes you feel like, oh wow, you know, all my anxiety, all my aches and pains just disappeared. I've been carrying them around for years, and then so it's just being willing to explore the terrain and find a practitioner who knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about, and that connects with you, and to have that event, and that can open the door for you to do more research and have an open mind when you hear about this plant or this treatment that's natural, that works to support the body's immune system.
But why is it, and I have my own suspicions on this, but why is it that you think that more people don't hear about, you know, the fact that I can take a drop of tea tree oil and put it on my foot and it's going to cure my athlete's foot? Right.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies have a business to run, and it's not. They have products that they own an intellectual property right to, and they get paid on that basis. Whereas you cannot own an intellectual copyright to lavender or peppermint or some natural plant that anybody can access.
So I won't see a big billboard that says lavender coming soon to help you calm down.
Yeah, you won't see that, and they'll fight against it if it gets to be too big, I think, because then you're cutting into their profits.
And so, what's the solution?
For a lot of people, they're forced into having to think about it. They have a problem that hasn't been resolved.
Right. Exactly, like I was saying, out of necessity breeds creativity.
Right, in a medical way. And so now they're willing to try something outside the box. And then if they find that it works, and it's relatively simple, then they're amazed. Now the mind's open to understanding, you know, natural botanicals and how they work. And
so like with me, it was just having a pain in my tooth, or with you, it was figuring out the calming effects of lavender and the feeling that brought to you.
That was the start of it. I mean, actually, I started doing massage therapy, and that was the first door I walked through. Then the second door was aromatherapy, and then they work together. Obviously, I can use essential oils in a massage treatment. But as I've expanded my practice, you know, just topical or massage application wasn't enough. I had to find out, you know, more about different aspects of healing and how to apply the oils.
So, do you think that we as a society are becoming more amenable to this kind of thing right now?
I do. I think it's definitely going in that direction. We're not in America. We're not as ahead of the game as, let's say, France or England.
They're much more into the
They're much more
essential
into.
oil
They
thing?
much more support the aromatherapy community, the holistic community.
And again, I think it's important to note that aromatherapy is one tool in the toolbox. It's definitely not the only tool.
That's
There's
right.
many other things
That's
out there, you know.
right.
But it's
that's
just
the one that attracted me.
Yeah, it's opening your mind to the fact that there are other roads that
Alternatives.
lead to Rome besides the one you're on.
Exactly.
Things like the internet can be a wonderful help, and they can also be a real hindrance because there's such a conglomeration of information that's out there. How do you suggest that somebody actually finds a good source of essential oils, you know, and information on how to make, you know, their own blends or whatever they want to do?
That's a good question. I mean, the world of oils is really a difficult one because there's all kinds of oils out there. There's body oils, there's perfume oils, there are essential oils that are labeled as natural, that have been distilled under by commercial interests for laundry detergent, perfuming different you know, products that come to market. And then there are distillers who have small artisan operations who take the time and the care. They're not going to get a lot of yield, and they can't make a lot of money, not as much as the big commercial, but they're doing the distillation in a method that's in accordance with an aromatherapist, what the needs of an aromatherapist, and that is that this oil is going to be used for on the body, right? Anything that you ingest or put on your skin is going into your body, whether you know it or like it or not. So if you're using synthetic perfumes, those ingredients are also being absorbed into the body. So how do you find out? Well, you really just have to do some searching and discerning. Again, it's on the individual to try to make that determination. But I have, you know, looked over the years and found people and distillers who create products that are efficacious and meet the standard for an aromatherapist. Not all oils can do that.
You brought some oils with you. I'd like to check them out if you don't mind.
What did I do with them? I have them in my pocket here.
So this is like a travel kit, right?
Yeah, this is what I call my first aid kit. I have 5 vials of essential oils, and I take this with me wherever I go. And you know, this is 5 oils that are easy to source, easy to find. They're very common: eucalyptus, peppermint, tea tree, lavender, and lemon.
And why those particular 5 oils?
Well, I just put these oils together because they do so many things. Each oil can do multiple things for the human body, for human physiology, and for environmental reasons.
Environmental reasons? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean to like deodorize a room, or to, let's say, you know, it's cold and flu season.
Yeah, I've been using a blend of eucalyptus, peppermint, pine, and lavender and tea tree oil in an air diffuser.
Right.
And because it's flu season, and you know, my wife's a teacher, and so you know, we're constantly exposed to viruses, and this winter we haven't really gotten as sick as we do, you know, other members as often.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's true. You can use it for diffusing into the room. I use eucalyptus to open my sinuses. I use it for muscle aches. I use it for concentration. If I'm traveling on an airplane, for example, you're breathing recycled air. So I may use peppermint or eucalyptus to kill any airborne germs.
How do you use it on an airplane? Like how do you like spritz it around?
I've made that mistake because it kind of circulates through the system, but actually everybody gets a dose of it. So it's cool. I just go into the bathroom and I'll put a couple drops on my hand, and I'll rub it in and warm it up, and then inhale it. Maybe while I'm in there, I'll use the peppermint to freshen my breath.
How long does that last? Like if I inhale some peppermint, and then I walk back into a cabin with like 20 people that are potentially have a flu virus, how long am I protected?
Well, I think you will have to reapply every couple of hours or so, if you have a long overseas flight.
That's really interesting, because you would think that the moment that you stopped smelling it, that it stopped working.
I mean, I don't know exactly. I couldn't really say how long it would.
It's not an exact science.
It's not exact in that, and how long you'd be protected for. But I think you just sort of know. Oh, I need to, reapply the treatment or whatever. But it could last 2 to 4 hours. I know when let's say if I'm using an oil to prevent a flu from coming on, I'll use it every 4 hours. If I get indigestion or flatulence or nausea, it's amazing how it'll just diminish.
Peppermint tea is always been
it's always been used for. If let's say I want to read and I need to focus more, I can inhale the peppermint in order to heighten my concentration. If I want to relax more and just kind of chill out, then I'll use the lavender. And once I get to the hotel, maybe I need a bath, so I'll put a few drops of these oils in the bath,
in the warm water,
and I can not only will I inhale it, but I will also absorb it through my skin. And then the bath has its own therapeutic effects.
I know that a lot of people use oils with meditation. I mentioned sandalwood before. I know that oils were really big in a lot of these ancient cultures. The Egyptians used, what was it, the blue lotus?
The blue lotus,
that they would distill and use as a tool of spiritual connection.
You're a Catholic. They burn frankincense and myrrh.
That's right.
And why do they do that? I mean, it's because it helps to create an atmosphere of meditation by slowing the breath, alleviating anxiety, and but not only are the oils good for the mind in that way, and the nervous system for nervous anxiety and stress. They can be used to repel insects. That's another thing I've been using a lot of them oils for. My girlfriend goes to Mali each year, so she has to deal with mosquitoes.
What's good for repelling mosquitoes?
So the CDC recommends Eucalyptus citriodora.
Is that a particular kind of eucalyptus?
It's a type of eucalyptus. There are many varieties. There's 700 varieties of eucalyptus or more. So as an aromatherapist, I use about 5. And citriodora is a lemon-scented eucalyptus.
And that repels the mosquitoes.
And that repels mosquitoes. It smells a little bit like the citronella, like how they use citronella. So these lemon-scented oils have an effect on like mosquitoes and flies and that kind of thing. But I've also had I had a mice infestation about a year ago, and it was freaking me out. So what I did was I got a gun spray and I put some peppermint in it, and I walked around the room and I sprayed around the baseboards.
I've heard of cayenne doing that.
Well, that probably would work too. But anything that their little olfactory senses are so sensitive, right? These little creatures. I mean, the peppermint just blew them out of the water. They left immediately.
Wow.
Right, and I just actually used that for a friend who called me, who had skunks in the basement or underneath the house. I mean. And so he found a way to diffuse it under the basement to drive them away. Right. So I've used it in that way to repel insects and animals, but I've also used lavender to calm the anxiety of a pet.
Ah, yeah. My dog could probably use that. I have a little dog.
Like a hose.
I've actually used, for a flea repellent. There's a blend. I forget what's in it, but you can, you put a couple drops on the dog, and supposedly it keeps away the fleas.
Things like lemongrass, geranium, eucalyptus is another good one.
I just recently was reading something about how they found an urn in Egypt not too long ago in some tomb. And they opened it up, and after 5,000 years, it still had the scent of frankincense. How do these oils and these scents connect us to something?
Well, it's all about the limbic system and the body, through the olfactory system. When you smell something, it can trigger memories or emotions. I don't know if you remember being around your grandmother when she baked a certain pie or apple pie, and when you smell apple pie, now your mind goes back to that time when this is how this works. So smell can influence how you feel and your memories. And we use this a lot, actually, with trying to calm people down and anxiety.
Does it work for like post-traumatic stress and that kind of thing?
I think that that's an underappreciated part of aromatherapy at this point. I mean, I think that we could be really helping people more by using essential oils to help people with serious, severe psychological and psychiatric issues.
On that note, my wife is a teacher, and she's been using lavender, like just burning it on a little diffuser in her class, and she says it keeps her kids calm.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a psychiatrist, and she gave me a paper on a study of using Melissa, which is an oil it's lemon balm, that's what its common name is, on elderly, agitated patients in a home care facility. And they were doing, I guess they were doing a study comparing it to the medication that they normally use, and they found that the Melissa worked much better.
It's all a doorway. It leads you into a further and further exploration of, exploration of yourself, of who you are as an individual, and what you respond to.
I think that a lot of people are stuck in the rational mind. And in order to have something understood, they have to have it explained in rational terms or scientific terms. And this is a problem because...
well, I think that's one of the things that this show is really about, the blending of the things that, maybe we don't understand, or the things that have always seemed like, in the realm of magic, which essential oils really, for many generations, have been. It's like no one understood how they worked. And taking that and grounding it in a very modern day, scientific, very practical perspective, because the fact is there is something to it. It does work.
Well, on a scientific level, you can always explain how infections, how these oils work on pathogens and infections and that kind of thing on a physical level. But when you're talking about emotions and the mind and the mental part of it, that's where the magic kind of unfolds, because there really is no words to sort of explain why a certain oil makes you feel a certain way, which leads you to another step in your own evolution as a person.
This is about our own sort of journey, in learning new things and exposing ourselves to things that allow us to heal ourselves, to grow as individuals.
I think also, one thing I was telling a friend of mine recently, we were talking about how she didn't like patchouli. And I was trying to explain to her that, well, maybe one day it's an acquired taste, maybe she will. But the main thing that I was trying to impress upon her is that think of the plant as having its own personality, its own intelligence, and its own intention, and will do something to you whether you want it to happen or not. Right? So as long as you think that this is a world in which you control everything that goes on around you, then you sort of miss opening the door to allowing a plant to teach you about what it has to offer. Right? I mean, you can read all you want about these plants because there's lots written about them, but it's in the experience where you actually know. You know, knowledge comes from experience. It doesn't come from information.
What can you say that's going to get somebody at home off their seat and to go and try something new like this?
Well, I have a website. And the name of my company is Zianya, spelled Z-Y-A-N-Y-A. Zianya means always.
Why that name?
It's a romance, actually, of the name. It's the name of it's in Nahuatl. The name is an Aztec name, basically.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful name. It's kind of like, I don't know, the way it's spelled. It's kind of like abracadabra, or it's one of these words that has power, and just seeing it, the letters, the way it's written. But Zianya.com is my website, and at info@Zianya you can reach me and explore more. I'd be happy to share my knowledge or direct you to where you can find certain oils.
Thank you for coming out, to the studio. I want to have you back again, and I want to have you come in and, play some guitar, because one of the things we didn't mention is that you're really an amazing guitarist. What is the name of the project you're working on right now?
African Cowboy.
African Cowboy,
Right.
which is taking African troubadour music and comparing it with people like Bob Dylan and a very American artist.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually traveled to learn to play the guitar in different countries, and now I think that all this music is connected.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to show you how it's connected.
Yeah, and also a good excuse to travel and find your essential oils, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
I look forward to having you on again, and thank you. I appreciate your time. And
Thank
to you at home, we appreciate your time as well. We are another version of you, as we say here, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, and hopefully, with your little pack of, seriously, investigate some essential oils, because they are extremely
They're pretty
uplifting.
amazing. Yeah.
And good night.